Where's the United States space program headed these days? NASA, the U.S. Space Agency, had plans to head back to the moon when George W. Bush was president. President Barack Obama has other ideas. In a speech recently at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, he said he wants NASA to bypass the moon and head deeper into space.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Shuttle Endeavour with NASA's final...
It was called the Constellation Program. It was NASA's plan approved in 2004 by President George W. Bush to, among other things, return an astronaut to the surface of the moon.
And liftoff of Discovery.
Our third goal is to return to the moon by 2020.
Houston, Discovery, roll program.
Barack Obama has other ideas. He canceled the Constellation Program. He wants to sidestep the moon for now.
But I just have to say, pretty bluntly here, we've been there before.
The president says it's time to venture deeper into space, to go where no person has gone before.
We'll start by sending astronauts to an asteroid for the first time in history.
And eventually, says Mr. Obama, U.S. astronauts will go to Mars. This change in strategy was the result of a report put out by a panel of space experts headed by Norman Augustine, the former chief executive of Lockheed Martin. Augustine says it's time to go beyond low Earth orbit, beyond a range of 400 to 800 kilometers from Earth.
It's amazing.
You can see the thickness of the atmosphere.
Beyond where the shuttle docks with the International Space Station.
Let's get out into outer space and let's learn some new things. We haven't been more than 300 miles from the Earth since the last Apollo astronaut returned.
The Augustine plan tacks on 5 more years of life for the International Space Station.
The plan was to shut it down 5 years from now, and so the question is, why spend 20 years building something and using it for 5 years?
John Logston is with the Space Policy Institute at George Washington University.
It will be a research laboratory for biological, chemical, physical research, for testing technologies.
But NASA will not be using any of its 3 remaining shuttles to get to and from the ISS.
Endeavour and the International Space Station are orbiting.
The shuttle program will end by the end of this year.
The real problem is that shuttle consumes so much money to operate. You spend all your money on shuttle and you can't do the exciting things beyond low Earth orbit.
With the space shuttles retired, the new plan will allow private companies to build the next low Earth orbiter, freeing up NASA to concentrate on exploring outer space.
Copy that, CJ. Wish you could be here.
But until that happens, U.S. astronauts will not have their own spaceship.
Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket.
Brendan Curry is with the Space Foundation.
We will be utterly and totally reliant on the Russians for American astronaut access and return from space station.
Critics of the new space strategy don't want the U.S. to have to rely on the Russians to get to the ISS, but this has happened before.
In the sad aftermath of the Columbia accident, there were a number of years where we were totally reliant on the Russians for American astronaut access to and from the space station.
The new Augustine plan calls for NASA to develop new technologies over the next several years with the hope of visiting an asteroid around the year 2025.
They may be full of organic material. They certainly have all kinds of mineral deposits on them. So they're very interesting objects, and we have not studied them very much.
And there's another reason to visit an asteroid.
One of these days, it's just a question of when, a big asteroid is going to impact the Earth and do bad things like it did to the dinosaurs. And it's probable that we might be able to prevent that. And so this would be a first step toward doing that.
The ultimate target, however, is the eventual landing of a person on Mars by the mid-2030s. But as usual, it all depends on the money.
If we're willing to invest what it takes, which is like $10 billion a year, I think it's going to be viewed as one of the most, it'll probably eclipse the Apollo program in terms of the excitement and the inspiration that it provides. If we provide significantly less than that, my prediction is that there'll be another commission meeting 10 years from now to decide what we should do with that program we just canceled.
Critics hope the U.S. Congress will not approve this new plan. They say far too much money has already been spent on the old plan to get astronauts back to the moon first. They also say that NASA will be shut down far too long as they prepare for those new flights beyond the moon. And now you know.